Hello, everybody. Billy Tucci here. Sorry, just clicking some things, making sure everybody's mic is muted. We're here for a celebration day. Earlier this week, a good friend of ours, Tommy Maletta of Best Comics, out here on Long Island, a cornerstone of the Long Island comic scene, and above, he always was at San Diego, had a booth, and we're going to just some friends. We're just going to talk about him and remember him. Let me just fix this a little bit there. And just we're going to talk about our pal and just the effect he had on comics, on all of us. And we've got some great guests today. We've got Ozzie, who actually worked for Tommy for about 15 years, who still works there. Then, of course, we have the Long Island comic guys. And first and foremost, and last but not least, is my partner in crime, JC Vaughn. How are you, old bean?
Well, it's mixed emotions. I'm like all of us, just relatively, I'm going to prove this wrong by keep on talking, but relatively speechless about this. And at the same time, you got to celebrate a guy like this. You have to celebrate that kind of life and the impact he had on all of us. That's such a great picture, man.
Isn't that a great picture of him? That's I guess that's at New York Comic Con.
Yeah, that's his booth. That's his booth set up there. Absolutely.
And he was and the thing is that he was a great guy with badge hookups for people. He would hook Niall up with he hooked so many people up with badges and all.
Well, part of the thing was he knew that the retailer's job is to get people into that show so they spend money.
Right.
So all the good retailers knew that, so they absolutely order extra badges and stuff like that. They got to pay for them.
Yeah.
But they put them to use. And Tommy was all about enjoying the experience. One of the things that I think is the coolest thing you can say about anybody in their career is that the guy loved what he did. And he could come off as being, and I say this as an adopted New Yorker, but he could come off as being this grumpy, curmudgeonly New Yorker, really abrupt, all that kind of stuff like that. But you didn't have to do a lot, like start talking about his favorite comics or something like that. And the teddy bear came out, the guy who genuinely, after all this time, after years in the business, loved it.
The cuddly curmudgeon.
So
that he was.
Yeah, something we could that I probably aspire to myself somewhat.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, let's bring some of our friends on.
Absolutely, I think that's what things like this are for.
Great guys, and we've all been friends. We've all known each other a long, long time. But we'll bring them on once. We'll let them introduce themselves to everyone. You might have to talk to Ozzie for me.
That's right.
I don't, but,
the weirdest technical difficulty yet.
Because he can't hear me for some reason. So let's get TC and then Oz. All right. Hello, everybody. So here's our panel. Of course, we have Jim, Michaelek, or JJ, as he's known in fandom, of the Long Island comic guys. But if you guys would mind just introducing yourselves, and then Jeff, if you want to ask Ozzie to do so, let Ozzie go last.
I'm JJ with the Long Island Comic Guys. Me and Matt and TC, we founded this a couple of years ago, and we share the love of comics. We try to share the love of comics with everybody and everyone.
Matt?
Yeah. Sorry. So I started working for Tommy 8 years ago in the store right out of college. So I've known him. I met these guys all in the shop, and that's how this whole thing started. So we have him to thank for a lot of this.
Yeah.
TC?
TC here. Same as Matt, about 10 years ago, walked into the shop, met Tommy, the rest of the guys, and I never really left.
That's it. Ozzie?
He can't hear you now?
Ozzie, can you hear me? Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Ozzie can't hear anybody.
He can't hear anyone. Why not? Does he have?
Do you have him muted, Billy?
Well, you can't even hear him.
Can you hear Ozzie? Why don't you stream off and try to stream back on? Oh, he can't hear that.
Ozzie, try and get out and come back in.
Yeah.
All right, he heard me.
Oh, he can hear.
He heard me. Yeah, it's so weird.
It's a little weird.
All right. While he's there, we also have another guest. We got our buddy over here. Let's see, Jimbo Slice. Jimbo, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, man.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I don't know if you guys can hear me or not.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you just
Right.
fine. So Jimbo's been another great friend of Tommy, Maletta, who's known as Tommy Best. And Jim, Jimbo, you've been at the store for the past couple of days, right?
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time there these last couple of days trying to help them out with everything, Christine's got a lot on her hands to deal with right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ozzie was there both days. We were together, just doing what needs to get done.
Yeah,
that's absolutely it, Jimbo. I mean, things like this are shell shock, anyways. Well, then you add on running a business on top of it, and it's really something else. One of the things that I think is, when we were all at the shop the other day, I noted my reaction was what you would expect, which was laughter and tears. And, you remember something that's funny, and that eventually gets you back to tears, and eventually gets you back to laughter, because it's all joined together. I always think that, how you meet somebody is an interesting way to go. And I know, Billy, you've told the story, but you ought to tell it again about how you met Tommy, and and how, and it really represents his enthusiasm and his business side, this story.
Yeah.
And so why don't you tell that?
It's so funny because he was a businessman, and he was, all business, but he was a great friend as well. And
a genuine supporter of creators. That's the thing that really struck me, whether it was like he had Ron Garney fairly recently for a signing. And I mean, Ron Garney's, top of the game,
Yeah.
And then your experience comes when you were literally just breaking in.
Yes. Oh man. I wasn't even breaking in yet. Jimbo, hang on a second. I'm going to put you backstage to see if we can get Ozzie in. Okay. Real quick.
No problem.
All right. Hang on, buddy. Hang on. All right. Let's see if we can hear Ozzie now. Ozzie, you there?
Hey guys.
There we go.
There we go.
Can you hear Billy
Excellent.
now? Oh no, we spoke too soon.
He froze up. All right. Well, hey Ozzie, can you text him? Tell him to come on at 9:30.
Yeah, we will.
All right. He's
All right.
all frozen up. Sorry.
Back to Jimbo and Billy. Tell your story.
Yeah. So anyway, here's the story. So for those of you out there, this is our friend Tommy, from Best Comics. Again, just a great guy. And let's just pop him up. There's a lot of great photos of him with Batman, and there's our boy. And anyone who bought comics on Long Island or in Queens or in New York or at San Diego, you definitely knew Tommy.
One of the things about Tommy that, it was good. You had a photo of him holding a statue. Tommy, in the heyday of the statues and minibus like that,
Best.
he did exclusives with Randy Bowen. I mean, he had some serious pull.
Yeah. Absolutely. So,
and also, the only statue that I ever sold that I regretted was that first Bowen Doctor Doom, with the parapet, and it just is. You look at it and you just want to be a supervillain. I mean, it's just so cool, right? And it's one of two pieces in anything that I've ever sold. It's one of the two pieces that I regretted.
Yeah. And
Tommy kept it on my want list for forever and found a collection that had it and got it for me, not too much over regular price. And I've got a photo of me and him with it, because it was just such a great day. Iron Man.
This is the Best Comics exclusive electroplated Iron Man.
That was awesome.
That's one of my favorite pieces. One of the first pieces I bought. When I saw it said Best Comics on the box, I was like, oh yeah, I'm getting that.
That's a perfect example of what I was just talking about. Anyhow, Billy, go back and tell this story though.
Yeah. So here's a funny story, and I think we're on Facebook Live too, because I was streaming it through my page. So for some reason, our Facebook viewers cannot post. It's not showing up on our StreamYard comments, the comment section. So let me go to that. And so here's a funny story. So how I met Tommy was that Tommy was pretty much the first retailer, not the first. He was the first retailer that I met physically, spoke to physically, that actually bought She.
Yeah, he wasn't the first one you went to. He was the first one that bought it.
He was the first one to buy it. So what happened is that I went to and because he was the next shop over. So here we go.
And this is She, the Way of the Warrior #1.
Yeah.
Before it actually hits comic shops.
Yeah. So
you got your advanced copies.
Yes. So what happened is that She the Way of the Warrior. We get it at the end of May. It's March. It's 26 years ago. Get it at the end of the March. It goes to the printer. Then it's at the printer, and then the Diamond trucks, the Capital City trucks and the Previews World trucks pick them up, and it's in shops on, I guess, what was it, Tuesday or Wednesdays or Thursdays? It wasn't Wednesday. It was whatever. It was the weekend before the book was in the shops because I got probably 10 boxes sent to me, or all the bulk of what was left. And they were 300 count boxes. So I'm like, ooh, well, I'm going to go see it. Now I got my comic. I'm going to show the world, and they're going to buy him. So I went to Rick Dodd, who ended up becoming one of my best friends, to his shop, and I asked him if he wanted to buy. I said, like, I made a comic book. Would you want to buy him? He's like, nah. That's all right. You gotta look at him. So then I'm like, oh man. So, but I'm like, this book is going to do well. I know this book's going to be great. So I ended up going to get on the subway. I ended up getting on the subway and going to Best Comics. You know, I never been in there before, and I walk in and there's Tommy. He was alone behind the desk, and I'm like, hey, I made a comic book. He's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. I said, you want to buy him? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, check it out. And he takes it and he looks at it, and then he opens it up. He's flipping through. He goes, you made this? I said, it's going to be in store. I said, oh, you didn't order it? He goes, no, I didn't see it. I'm mostly a mainstream guy, Marvel DC guy. I'm like, oh, and he's like, oh, you made this? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, how many you got? I said, well, I said, do you want to buy some? And he said, yeah. He goes, no. I said, do you want to buy some? And he goes, how many you got? And I said, 300. He goes, I'll give you $300 for it. And I'm like, oh my God, $300. I haven't had $300. You know, I was 4 years, right? 300 cash, you know? And he goes, and then because they had a $250 price, you know, $250 cover price, but that's kind of what I was getting from Diamond. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, what the hell? $300? Yeah. So maybe I could take Debbie to dinner that night.
You could afford to get home.
Yeah, I would buy a sandwich. I was hoping to sell 10 copies, and I was willing to sell for $1 each. To be honest, I'd have liked to have gotten $2, but if someone's going to give you $300 and you're 20-something years old and you're broke, I'm like, yeah. And they said, if you sign them. So I'm like, all right. So he laid them all on the table, and I signed every one of them. And then and I'm like, wow, this is a lot of work. This is 300 comics. I'm signing them all. I was excited. And then he just kept giving them to me, and I'm signing them, but he's real particular with them. And I'm like, all right, but I want that. Can I have that P-40? He had a P-40. He always had these airplanes in the old Queen shop. I don't know if any of you guys had gone to his old store. And he's like, yeah, you can have that. So I walked out with an airplane and $300 in my pocket. I was able to go to the subway and have lunch, and I was able to take the subway home. And I guess I took Debbie to dinner that night because I think it was Friday. It was a Saturday. It was a Friday or a Saturday morning, but it was the weekend before the book hit. So Tommy got the first She's of anyone in the country. He got them all signed, and I got $300. And then, but the cool
and you guys have been friends ever since then.
Ever since, because then he called me up 3 weeks later. Now, 3 weeks later, the book is huge. Now,
by that point, it's come out through Diamond, Capital, the other smaller distributors.
Yeah, the book has been out. The book is now the hottest book in the country for the most part. That and Lady Death. And then, now I'm like, everyone's calling me from all over the place. But I know, so then all of a sudden, Tommy calls me, and it had to be 3 weeks later. And he goes, hey, I want to buy another 300 of those books from you, or 600. And I said, yeah, well, they're $3 each now. You know what I mean?
Because there's already, seriously, a week after it's out, there's already a back market on it.
Yeah, the book's like $10 because the book, there was only, I only made, I had orders for 37,000. And
people would kill for that these days.
I know. Then the Image guy's selling 500,000 books.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I'm selling 37,000. I sold 37,000 and I made 50 You know what I mean? Because even the printer's like, well, what do I make, 40? I'm like, no, I'll make 50. This book's going to sell. Within 3 weeks, I had reorders for over 140,000 copies.
That's
I had to tell Diamond stop. And then Tommy calls me, and he wants to buy the books for $1 each from me again. Because I know someone was like, this book, She Is Hot, and he's selling. He's like, well, I know the guy. I bet you probably said, I'm friends with the guy who made him. I know the guy. I can get it. So he probably had even pre-sold, and he got like mad at me. Because I wanted something for $3 each. He still was.
They were easily $7 already. In a lot of places, they were 10.
Yeah,
they were 10.
amazing.
He was selling them the signed ones for 25. I heard.
Well, yeah, of course he
No, I'm
was.
just kidding.
Because then I went to the strike, because I had then done my first store signing at the Strike Zone, which was April 7th, 1994, and that's where I met Buzz. And I was not prepared for this at all. I think I walked in, he wanted some books. I think I bought a box of books with me, and there was this huge line out the door. So I'm like, oh my God, well, he said it's Vampirella and She. I guess I'll be the guy, and everybody wanted She. It was crazy. It was nuts. So everyone's now bought. I'm selling these books to people for like $5 each now, retailers, because they're selling it for 10. And then Tommy wanted for $1. Fine.
That's sort of perfect. I always felt like,
Tommy, right, guy. I mean, you know,
it's and that's sort of him to a T. He's a guy who can make a great deal.
Yeah.
So when I first met him,
that is
I had moved to New York. There was a comic shop much closer to my house, and I went there for a couple of months and I couldn't figure out how it's organized. And my standard joke is, I've been collecting since I was 11. I'll figure this store out sooner or later. Mm-hmm. And I never did. And a friend of mine told me about Tommy's store, so I went over there. And first time I was in, they had this great box of $5 trades. And there was some cool stuff in it. And I tend to like stuff that's going to be in the $5 trades because it's not going to be super popular kind of stuff. But I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but the Simon and Schuster Fireside books, it started with Origins, Sons of Origins, Bring on the Bad Guys, and then they broke into some character specific books. They had Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Captain America, and in this $5 trade pile was the Captain America Fireside book. And it was a really nice copy. And so I pull it out and I walk up to him and I said, "Hey, I'm JC Vaughn. I really like your store. And I just think you have this in the wrong pile. This is a $60 eBay book." And what I didn't know, because I was just meeting Tommy the first time, was I had just made him money.
Yeah.
So he loved me. and I said, "Oh yeah, and oh yeah, by the way, I do the Overstreet Comic Book Price Guide." And then all of a sudden the $60 was real to him. Yeah. Because it wasn't just some guy saying it's $60. It was the guide saying it's $60. It really was. It's actually a thing that I collect. And so I actually was on top of the prices for that. And literally the next time I was in, he was just like, he remembered me right away. And usually I'm nondescript enough that it takes 3 or 4 times for people to start even thinking about remembering me. So, so I always like that because, it's always nice to do that for somebody anyway, because if that's going to be your retailer, you want to have a good relationship with them. Yeah. Sure. But there are a number of times where I came in and would do something like Tommy did an exclusive version. He wanted as few copies as possible for a variant cover, because who doesn't, right? As a retailer. But Bedtime Stories for Impressionable Children from American Mythology. My friend James Nelms whipped up a second cover so we could have a variant, and Tommy took it, and we had Jim Shooter and Joe James and me there for a signing, and Tommy was just great about it, man. And he was that's why I said earlier on, whether it's somebody like Ron Garney and somebody really famous, or somebody starting out like Billy, or right in the middle of the pack like me, he was always supportive of creators and wanted to have something cool for the fans when they came in. He's always looking for something to attract give people another reason to come into the store, and I think that's just great business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimbo.
Yeah.
And because you don't have the camera and all, so we don't have to keep you on all night, and you're just looking into your black screen there. You've known Tommy half your life.
Pretty much, yeah.
And you guys had a real interesting. I mean, he was like I guess you were like you might have said he was a son he never had, or you were the kid brother he never wanted. What was it? Something like that.
Yeah, something like
A
that.
real father son, big brother or little brother relationship. If you don't mind sharing some of that for a bit.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting dynamic with me.
I know
and
you
him,
guys loved each other so much too.
We had a lot of ups and downs over the years, me and that guy, because look, if you really know Tommy beyond comic books, he was a pain in my balls. And he was one of the most stubborn, prideful guineas you ever meet in your life. And and him and I were a lot alike. So the same things that we admired about each other were the same reasons why we used to get into arguments all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But just years and years and years of just, obviously going into the shop like everybody else, but we developed a friendship throughout the years. I remember this one time this wasn't that long ago. It was a few years ago at New York Comic Con. It was like the weirdest thing in the world. I'm like walking down the aisle, and you guys know how crazy packed it is.
Yep.
And I wasn't working that Comic Con. I was just there, as an attendee, hanging out. And I see him like nose to nose with somebody. And, my spider senses are tingling because I could tell by the body language that it wasn't good. But I saw like he was like nervous, and this guy was like really getting in his personal space. So right away, I'm already gearing up. And he sees me. We made like eye contact, and all of a sudden, he starts going ballistic on the guy. And I walk over. I said, "What's going on? What's the problem over here?" And the guy, he said some shit or whatever, and he walked away. And he looks at me, puts his hand on my shoulder. He goes, "Thank God." He goes, "I saw you walking down the aisle, and I knew you had my back." And apparently,
man, Jimbo, you know what? I never knew that story before. But that to me, what you just said there is totally Tommy.
Yeah. I have so many stories with him. It's just crazy, I mean, I remember like when I was younger, I'm talking like 19 years old, 20 years old. He would call me on a Monday, like clockwork. He's like, "Yo," he's like, I got my UPS shipment if you want to come down on your lunch break. And I'd fly down there on my lunch break with a bunch of cash, and we crack open the freaking boxes, and it was all, back then, Bone was like the premier statue, it wasn't like now where there's 10 billion companies.
Yeah.
And, half the stuff that he got for UPS wouldn't even make it to the shelves, I was there every Monday just buying statues, 3 and 4 at a clip, It was crazy. But a lot of people, they obviously saw me around the shop over the years, but they didn't realize how close I was with them out of the shop. Me and him hung out. We went to the movies together. We ate together. We were on this boat all the time together. We did a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. It was just so weird. Just so weird that he's gone.
Yeah, it's just
weird is the word for it.
I'm having like a really hard time with it. He actually I know a lot of people, as you guys know, and I'm always constantly getting calls, and I'm sending people to voicemail, and I won't even know if my voicemail box is full unless someone tells me and I talk to them. And of course, the other day before this had happened, somebody was like, "Hey, your mailbox is full again." I'm like, "Oh, so fucking annoying." So I start deleting messages, and then I stopped on April 8th, and that was the last message that Tommy had left me. And I don't know what possessed me, because I always clear my box. I don't know what possessed me, but I didn't delete that message. I kept it, and I'm glad I did keep it. And it's gonna stay there,
Yeah.
The next day, I had talked to him, which was the last time that I spoke with him. I had called him, whatever, and he was basically telling me how the store was still open for like, it was closed for 14 or 15 days, but they were doing all right with the online thing. And Tommy was very methodical in how he conducted business. I think he adapted over the years by changing his priorities as far as what he wanted to sell. But like Yu-Gi-Oh cards were hot, he would get into that, the Pokemon, this, that, the other. but he was very old school with a lot of certain things, and he wasn't really aware of like a lot of stuff technology today. So I was like, oh, listen, you guys got those doors closed. You guys could do like raffles for books. You guys could do like online live sales and all this stuff. So, he's taking down all the information or whatever just to try to help the store out or whatever. And then he wasn't feeling too good that night, and he was going to get off the phone. So I said, all right, man, I'll talk to you soon. And then maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks had gone by, and I know him. He's like me. He was a typical Cancer. He was very, if like Jeff was saying before, like if you didn't know him, he kind of seemed like this hard exterior. But if you really got to know him and got past the layers of that, he was soft on the inside.
Yeah, very, very genuine.
Very, very genuine, and very very giving with a lot of things. He was the type of guy where like he wasn't able to drink anymore because he was battling this whole prostate cancer shit. But like if we went out for drinks and there was a couple of guys there, he'd throw a 50 on the table, like, guys, have drinks with me, have for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was just that type of guy.
Yeah.
But we get off that phone that night, and I didn't speak to him for about 2 weeks, which was kind of odd actually. And I started calling, and he wasn't picking up, and he wasn't returning my phone calls, which I thought was weird. So I said, I know him, he's moody. He doesn't want to. If he doesn't feel good or he's in one of his moods, he's not going to want to talk to you. I was
like, sounds like somebody else we know.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't hear from him, and then last week I started kind of getting aggressive with text messages and phone calls, and it's not like him to not answer me. At least answer me back through a text.
Yeah,
and I didn't hear from him, and then a couple of days ago, Christine called me. I already knew at that point. But Christine had called me, and when I picked up the phone, actually, she called me, which was even more weird. When she called me, when my cell phone went off, certain people have ringtones on my phone because I know who it is. This way, I know if I want to talk to somebody or not. And his ringtone is going off, and I see his name and his caller ID, but I knew he was gone already.
Yeah.
And
Billy had the same thing when Christine
that's
called
what happened.
him.
That's what happened with me, is that after we did our show the other night, and I talked to Jim, and Jim told me, Jim texted me earlier, and hey, can you talk? And so I was like, what? And I said I just heard about it, and then but after we did our show, and I saw people talking how Tommy's sister had put up the posts about his passing and then took it down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my phone.
I thought I was going crazy because I saw it and then I didn't see it, and it was gone.
Yeah,
so
it was weird, and you know how things get. I mean, they said Michael Davis died.
Yeah,
So I'm sitting there, and I finish. We just finished a show, and my phone rings, and it says Tommy Best. It was his cell phone.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm like, what? So I'm like, hello? Thinking he's going to say, oh, it was all bullshit. I got hacked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That type of thing. I'm alive. I'm the. And it was Christine, and she just started bawling, and she just was like, I wanted to call you earlier, but I'm like, oh, no, and put her on with Debbie, and like I said, we've known him 26 years. We've been friends with him, and and we love Christine, and it was just like just the whole thing, and just talking, and it was again just a shock, and just sucks. It's just really unfair, and
for real,
it's just, and again, he was like, we tease him about how he was a business when it was all business, right? Jimbo, you just said it. But then we'd go out to dinner, and maybe because Debbie was with me, because Debbie was like, he was the sweetest guy. Oh my God. I said, we called him the cuddly curmudgeon. And she's like, no, he was always nice to me. But, you get a pretty girl, forget it. Then he's going to turn on the charm. You know what I mean?
Big time.
And you think he's going to leave the room with her, you know what I mean? What's going on here? Because he loved food, and he knew he was a foodie, and he knew all about wine, and he knew all the, and girls like, oh my God, yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, I can cook. I cook this chicken franchise, and I'm like, I never cooked in my life, So it's like, what the hell, So, but we would go to dinner, and he would pay for dinner all the time.
Yeah,
he's that kind of guy. Yeah.
I'm asking you out. I got this. So he was one of those guys, and you could see like Steven. Very sorry, Steve. Steven lost his wife. I
see this comment from Steven, and Billy. I'm going to go ahead and read this comment from Don Paperin.
Yes, please.
Is that okay?
Yeah. I'm going to actually.
Okay. Dawn is Alan Peprin's wife. Alan runs the Comic Book Depot in Wanta.
Yeah, no,
And I think the thing here for me is this is somebody who's ostensibly Tommy's competitor. Okay. And Tommy's a business guy, and he's always looking for the best deal. He's always looking for his business. He wants to do better than the other guy, and that's fine, right? But that all goes out the window with this kind of stuff with the human relationships. And this is what Don posted. We will miss Tommy Maletta and the positive messages and energy he gave. I knew him through Alan in his comic book store, Best Comics in New Hyde Park. After talking to Alan about how I was doing, he would occasionally send me messages, being that I am chronically ill with no cure, always trying to lift up my spirits. I have been having a hard time in the last 3 to 4 years with a diagnosis of gastroparesis. One of the last things he told me, and he didn't go into stage 4 cancer, was, quoted, Don, I've been going through some issues myself the last year or two. Think positive, because that equates into positive energy, and that will make you feel better, and it will get you through this. Also know that your husband alone should make you feel better, as he's totally devoted to you and loves you very much. Not everyone is lucky to have a soulmate stand by them, unquote. To close, it's just amazing how simple kindness he gave touched me so much, and he did not have to go out of his way to write to me. You seriously don't understand how much time something like that means until it's gone. What a blessing that will always be. May you rest in peace and be at peace, Tommy. You will always be remembered. And I thought that was a really sweet thing.
Yeah,
so I reached out to make sure they were cool with me reading it.
Yeah.
And I think that's it in a nutshell. Tommy would have never made a show to any of us that he was doing that.
Yeah.
Because he didn't do it to show; he just did it to be good.
It's exactly right.
Yep. It was now, and you guys now, the Long Island Comic Guys. I don't know if this is how you met, or if this is what was the helped birth the Long Island Comic Guys podcast. But that Best Comics was your store, right? That was store. I mean,
that's where I met all those guys.
Yeah. So how did you guys meet them, and how did this all come to be? And then of course we'll give you guys a plug later on. Talk about the show. You got a big show Monday. Tommy too. But anyway. But how did this all happen? The antithesis of the Best Comics, JJTC and Matt combo come about.
Well, Matt, you worked there first, so why don't you start it off?
Yeah, so I live in Queens, but I went to high school on Jericho at Chaminade. So I drive, in my senior year of high school, I drive past, I'm 25 for reference. So this is like 8 years ago. And I drive down Jericho. Sorry?
You went to Chaminade?
I did, yes.
Look, check out the big brain on oh, man.
Yeah, that's why these guys keep me around. Yeah, so I drive home, and I'd always pass by Best Comics on Jericho on the way home. And I wasn't super into superheroes. I was in the movies like everybody else. And I was like, I'll stop in there one day. And then they did, like I was telling these guys last night, they did the whole thing where they killed Peter Parker, and Doc Ock took over that whole story. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I want whatever that is. So I went in, and it was like a week or two later after that book came out. And it was already like $40, priced over cover. And so I went in, and Tommy was there, and I was like, I told him, Matt, I'm looking for this book. I'm looking to get into this stuff. It sounds really cool. And he had like a couple copies left, and they were like $30 or $40. And he just goes, here you go. And I'm like, oh, well, how much? And he's like, no, it's on me. Come back. And boy, did I come back, and boy, did I spend more money. Yeah.
He knew what he was doing.
Oh, he did. I always remember that.
That's absolutely him.
Yeah.
I don't think my nephew, who's now 12, I don't think he ever left the store without something.
It's hard to,
Yeah. He would do the same thing with my daughter. I think he did the same thing with, JJ's sons.
A lot of Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
He was good. He was good to the kids. That's one of the big things I noticed. Going to the store and you see these little kids in there, especially in like free comic book day. He gave things to the kids, to, I guess to entice them into getting into this I want to call it a culture, because that's what it really is. Into this world, and that's one of the great memories I'm going to have about him is him interacting with the kids and all of us, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was great to see.
And don't you guys think that even when he was having one of his cranky days, which there were a few, that you could get him on some comic book subject and he'd just light up.
Yeah.
You could definitely crack him.
Yeah.
Like if he was in one of his moods, if you said or did the right thing, you could crack that exterior, and then you'd see the real Tommy come out.
Totally.
Yeah.
And Billy, I just sent you a photo. I don't want to interrupt what you guys are saying. Billy, I just sent you a photo. When we come back to me, I want you to grab that.
All right, sure. And all right, Jimbo. Listen, bro. I'm real sorry, man. I know how much you loved him.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on and sharing it with us.
Yeah, amen.
So we're gonna bring Ozzie in, and I'll talk to you soon, brother. All right, we're gonna have that cigar.
Sounds good. Absolutely.
Take care, brother.
Later.
Talk to you soon, man.
See you later, bud.
So I guess how it led to us kind of doing this, I think I came into the shop, shortly after what's up, Oz?
Yeah.
There he goes.
Yeah.
Good.
What's up, Oz? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I thought he was destined to replace me as the frozen person on the show.
So I came into the shop, and I'd never been to a comic book shop before, probably since I was like 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I stumbled in, I was looking to read a couple new books. Tommy, the one thing I said it on our show as well. Tommy was very old school about, make sure greeting the customers. I go into so many shops and, they don't even acknowledge that you're there. And, he was very good about, making the customer feel comfortable about where he was. And, that's what happened. We always came back. Zach, who used to work there, who works there, other customers who were in there, they were always comfortable being there. We were all like-minded. We started going out every Wednesday night, new comic book night. We would have, an 8 to 10 group of people. It started off as an interest and it became an obsession for me. I saw JJ on the Long Island Railroad with, a comic book bag. And I was like, I would never, I'm not a talk to stranger type guy. No one would ever say, I'm friendly and outgoing. But I saw that and I was like, this guy's getting off at my stop. I'm going to just start chatting with him.
Oh,
and,
really? Did you kind of walk up behind him and?
So, do you like comic books?
Well, more of it, what it was is I peeked inside the bag first to see if there was anything I wanted. And then it was all Aquaman. So I was like, forget it. But sorry.
Isn't that funny? Because you guys put together doing that at Wednesday nights, and my group, we're all getting away from business and going to lunch.
Yeah,
and, we do Wednesday lunch.
Yeah.
And it all starts because of Tommy in the store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
it was photos, man.
It was great too. I mean, we've all become so close. We started going to cons together. We take trips away together. And one year we were coming back, I think from Rhode Island Comic Con. Me and JJ were in the car. Like, we loved it. Like we just want to do more. We want to get more involved. We want to be not just a spectator, but a part of the community. And we decided to start something called the Long Island Comic Guys. It was just basically like a social media kind of group to share. And, we knew we wanted to do a podcast as well. Our podcast is, called Don't Feed the Geeks, where, it's just kind of our show and the way we like to do things. And, we talk to people, we've talked to Billy. Oz has been on, we were doing book clubs with Oz. It was just, but that all really stemmed from Tommy, which is pretty crazy. I mean, there's, I said to the guys the other night, we all had, we kind of met outside in the parking lot of the store, keeping our distance with our masks and everything on a Wednesday. And, it was like, you look around, the common denominator for all of us is Tommy, which was, it's pretty incredible.
Don't you think that's so true, TC? Hey, Billy, there's a great second comment here from Steven. Or it's not second, but it starts on a lighter note. Do you see that one?
Yeah.
You should really pull that up.
I fall behind on the comments. I'm sorry. On a lighter note. Okay.
Yeah, pull this one up.
I'll get to the comments.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
He's so...
Is that true, Ozzie?
No comment. No comment.
Now, Ozzie, have you been there since like 2004, 2005?
No, I started working for him in 2007. It was the third New York Comic Con.
Shows,
well,
right?
you've been there a long time, Is that true?
No comment, Billy.
Well, Ozzie, how did you come about working how did you come about? I mean, you would see him every day for almost 15 years,
So I wanted to go to the first New York Comic Con, and I couldn't get tickets. And Tommy's shop was the only place in town that had any left. So I got 2 tickets from them, and they told me to stop by his booth. And when you walked into New York, his booth stood out because of his setup. Yeah. Everything was displayed. You didn't see stuff like that anywhere else.
It was
Everybody else had them in boxes, and he had them in showcases.
Yeah, he brought all that in. Yep.
Yeah, and he was eye-catching, and the place was packed. And I went in saying, I've got $300 on this credit card, and that's it. Tom ended up getting me for about $600 that first
day. That sounds perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, and we started from there. I started going to the shop, and I had at that point I was really into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and every time he got something, he'd give me a call. He'd hold it for me. He'd give me first dibs on it, and then I got into the statues, and that got way out of hand. He was a boat distributor. He was, he was giving us deals that no one else could because he was the distributor. So it worked out great for those of us collecting. And then in 2007, he approached me. He said, "Hey, do you want to do New York with me?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll give it a shot." I didn't know what I was doing really, but why not? But I did really well at the statues. I sold all the statues that year. And he loved me after that. And he's like,
"You made him money too."
Yeah. So he was like, "Let's try Philly." Sure, why not? We tried Philly the next year. Then we did Chicago, and it just kept going from there. Then I started working in the store more and more, and that was it. Like it became like a brother to me, like a surrogate father. Like I could go to him and just talk to him, and then I met the rest of the guys through him, and we're still together as a group, as a family, and it hasn't changed in like 6 years now that we've been hanging out.
Yeah. And that's what we were talking to Christine and when we went to the office, we all went down and visited. For those who don't know, all of us. Well, 3, TC and Matt didn't make it, but we just stopped. You guys went yesterday. You guys went to the shop
Wednesday night. We all kind of met.
We did the day shift. Nick Catratis and Jason Versace.
I did both.
Yeah, you did both.
Of course,
and Christine knows, and she's like, he's got great guys, and she said we're like a family. I don't know what I think we can do it, but let's do it. So it's a great store. It's a beautiful store because that's another thing of how gorgeous that store is.
He was so meticulous about everything in that store, making everything, simple things like just make sure the damn floor's vacuumed, guys. He was so on top of that stuff, and that's what made him stand out.
But it makes a difference. I told this story again the other night. The first time I found a comic book shop is like there was this thing that popped up on my internet browser. It was like, find your local comic book shop. And there was the 2 closest ones. One was in Valley Stream. I don't think it's there anymore. I'm not even going to say the name. And the other was Tommy's. And, I went to Tommy's and I was like, expecting like the prototypical, comic book shop that you see on TV where it's, loaded with, people from the basement and stuff like that. But it was a beautiful shop. It made me want to come back. Coincidentally, I wound up eventually going to the other shop. It was disgusting. I was like, if that was the first shop I went to, I never would have had comics. Right. I probably would have had a bigger house and maybe a secondary house, but no comics or statues.
So you were like, again, you were fearing the, all the wood paneling and the books on, cinder blocks and one light bulb hanging.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, that's what you expect to see. But Tommy's, it's like you were walking into like a gallery.
Yeah.
Anybody with like any preconceived notions of what the comic book world was like, they walk into that store and it's all shattered. It's like it's nothing like what you would think it is.
Brightly lit, clean, friendly staff, and for those of us that grew up going to comic shops when they were first starting, it was an alien experience to go to that store.
And that's the great thing about Tommy's shop. I feel like you didn't feel intimidated as a new person walking in. You know, it was inviting.
yeah.
It's you need more places like that welcome in, the next generation of comic book. Whether it be kids or more females or just different people in general who've never picked up a comic book. It's it needs the infusion of people.
I totally agree with that. Don't you think that Tommy, by Ozzie, you could probably speak to this better than the rest of us. Don't you think by the way he cultured the approach to people who came into the store, Tommy, I mean, it was colorblind. He didn't care about, basically appearance unless the person looked dubious. He didn't care about appearance.
Right.
He cared about green.
Yeah.
Yep. And when I started working there again, I was like 17. So I was like, I'd never worked in retail before. So I was super shy. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And he would be up my ass about talking to customers and greeting everybody who walked through the door, no matter who they were, and helping them.
Yeah.
And that was like, he was so on top of all that. And that's what made him so welcoming.
In the 15 years I've been with him, I've seen so many guys like Matt that started out and then just grew up to be incredible, like young men and women.
Thank you.
Joey's a cop from New York City. The kid's
yeah.
doing so good today. Zach's a teacher. He got to work at an intern at DC for a while. It's just the list goes on and on. There's just so many young people that have come in there and that whose lives he affected in such a positive way because he made them get out of their shells. He made them.
What's funny about that is that I never knew you guys when you were starting out with him. So I didn't see that. And I'm just trying to think of like Zach being shy or something like that. and it doesn't register, but I've read 3 or 4 different accounts of people posting that Tommy made me talk to people.
Yeah. Yep.
And
you really did.
and let me tell you, man, that like with our nephew, we're always trying to teach him, bearing, shake hands, hold eye contact, that kind of stuff like that. And it's all part of that same lost art of building relationships quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, if you guys remember, we launched our first Kickstarter in his store.
Yeah.
Man.
Thank you all for coming, and remember that store was mobbed, man. That store was
There must have been 50 people, 60 people in the store. It was like free comic book day.
Yep.
Yeah. And Niall came down and Frank and Richie from Connecticut came down and just everyone to support us launching the book. And remember, Tommy's like, well, what is this? What is this? I'm like,
he let you in before even knowing what it was.
Yeah.
You go online and people, and he's like, and then he said, well, do I get anything out of this?
Which sounded like a Tommy thing.
Yeah, I'm like, no.
One of my
books. He goes, okay, and then he ended up buying pizzas for everybody.
Yes,
soda.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
you know what I mean. And he's like, this is great. This is great. And then I guess people were buying stuff too.
Of course.
Down, But he's like, this is great. This is great.
What I loved on Free Comic Book Day was inevitably you guys would have cosplayers outside trying to flag down people, get attention, that kind of stuff. And the little alcove by the window one year, you guys had Vincent Spencer and I set up there for Zombie Proof, and my nephew shows up, Alex, and I would guess he was about 8 at the time, and maybe 9, and there was these kids, and I think they were about college age, and one of the cosplayers was the Golden Age Flash. It was a really decent costume too, and the college kids were like, is that the Flash? I think that's the Flash's logo. Is that the Flash? I don't know that Flash. And Alex just looks at them and he says, it's the Golden Age Flash. This is like I said, he's 9. And I was just so proud of him for not saying you morons, because that's what his voice was saying. And Tommy heard it and about died. He was, and that's also we have a photo from that time where Batman, one of the cosplayers, is photobombing us, and it's just spectacular. And I posted about that this morning because I didn't need any other reminder of Tommy when I got up this morning. I'm still really sad about it. Yeah. And that popped up first thing in my feed on Facebook. I was just like, okay, I'm going to tell that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was great, and just looking, like I said, here we go. There's Jeff,
and you know what? You see this? You see the smile he had there, man.
Yeah.
That I mean, he was so psyched that Jim Shooter was in his store.
He was so happy about that. I remember that.
Was he really?
Yeah.
And Jim Shooter and Joe James and me for bedtime stories. But Tommy, like I said, he took a variant cover, supported the heck out of it, and he did it because he thought he could sell some of them, but he also did it to support me. And it's not the kind of stuff you forget.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we would do like I said, I would do my signings. You know what I mean? We launched our stuff, and And here's another cool thing: is aside from maybe Alan Papperman, I don't take pictures with the retailers at their stores.
Yeah, it's really funny. Both Alan and Tommy did that.
Yeah, but also like then you see like Charles Vasquez has a picture of him with Tommy in the store, just buying. You know what I mean? Like we're just like, oh, let's get a picture. Like it was really heartwarming to see so many people with photos of him. You know what I mean?
There's no shortage of pictures with him.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's pretty great. You know,
he's a photogenic guy.
Yeah, and you know what? You know what? I'm sure they exist. But for all our jokes about the gruffness and everything else like that, boy, you ever find anybody that smiles better in photos?
Oh yeah.
Right. No, he did have a pretty light up smile.
He did, yeah.
He was always ready to go.
But, here's also, like I said, the gruffness and all. But I remember our son Matthew. We went into a store for something, maybe in the fall, and Tommy had that Ozzie, if you remember, the 6-foot Batman stuffed animal,
giant life-size one, yeah.
And Matthew wanted it. And this is going back, man, this is it's got to be 7 years ago, 8 years ago. But it was like $150, $200, something like that he wanted to sell it for or whatever. So I remember we went Christmas. I'm like, all right, Tommy, you said that Batman? He's like, yeah. I said, hold it. I'm getting it for my son. And I went there. You know what I mean? Debbie and I went there because we were shopping. And we went to the store. And then we're like, we got to get something else for William. So we bought William, I don't know, something. William was into...
I think it was gum.
No, yeah, but it was like William's into Halo, so we got him a Halo thing, a Halo statue or something like that. And then, I don't know if you brought it, Ozzie, or Nick, or someone brought this get the Batman, brings the Batman, we put on the thing, and Tommy's like, just take it. We gave it to him, you know what I mean? And it was like, he's like, just take it. And we're like, no, he's like, it's Christmas time, just take it. So it was cool.
There was no shortage of that with him.
Like he was real
too,
He was real good about that. I mean, there's occasions like, we've said it before, you might pay $20, for more than a book occasionally. But then on the flip side, he may just throw you $100 book or, just give everybody, something in the store. I mean, he let us come in and record an episode with him. It's like he wasn't really getting anything out of it. And, like we just wanted to be there and, talk about, his shop and, the history he had in the comic book industry, which was it's amazing to hear. And that's the thing that stinks the most is like missing those stories that he had.
He had a lot.
You kind of just have to try and remember as many.
I think TC. I think you're so right, and I'm sure that Ozzie and Matt know this, but I don't know if Billy does. That for a guy who, by volume, was probably a very solid mid-level retailer, Tommy punched way over his weight. If you look at the guys who are making comments, the top tier guys who sell Action One.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of stuff like that. They all knew him. They all interacted with him. And if they didn't love him, they certainly respected him.
100%.
Yep.
And I think that tells you a lot about it. And the flip side of that is that he could be so down to earth with that. We had a family situation where my budget's been pretty freaking limited for about 5 years, And one day he knew that I just really was lamenting that I didn't have Supervillain Team Up and the Champions. They were the two series that I collected first. And because they were canceled, they were the first series that I had all of. And I was talking about that. I was probably getting all happy about it, just talking about it. And he just handed me a stack of both of them.
Wow. Nice.
And they were better than mid-grade.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, the Mylar was probably worth what I'd spent in the store in the last 2 weeks. it was just that kind of thing. And at the same time, he was glad when I sent him business. I talked about the intro I made, and he was always about that and always looking for the angle and things like that. But he could switch it off just like that,
when you least expect it.
Yeah.
You're like, what are you giving me?
He was, I think Jimbo spoke about it before, but his very old school like Italianness was, if you do good for me, I'm going to do good for you kind of thing too.
Yes.
Like, you always remember that. Like if you did something for him that he appreciated, he would take care of you for life.
Yes.
He was very reciprocal of, any appreciation that, you showed him.
And I felt like he did that a lot with me too, because I collect the other things outside of comic books. Like I'm a big, Star Wars card collector. I love the trading cards, and he never he never bought those for the store, but he would always go out his way and say, "Hey, I got to, I can get a box of this, or I can get a box of that," and he would order one or two of these boxes, and it'd be like, "Hey, I only need one box, Tommy. I can only afford one this week. Let me just get the one." But he'd always put my name on that second box and wait for me to come and buy it, because he knew that I was going to come and get it. And he always either, gave me a decent deal, or, it was that kind of salesperson or owner of a company. I'm always going to go back to him for that.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
It's
Jake, that's to me, that's him in a nutshell. Again, back with the budget story. He knew that I had, I'm the Overstreet guy. I literally had never owned a Golden Age comic. I plenty of Silver Age bought and sold.
That's funny.
Even more of them traded because I can't stand putting good comics on a scanner. So I get hardcovers and soft covers. So when I'm working on an article or something like that, and this is one where I he didn't give me any discount on it, but he let me do a Captain Marvel. Because he just saw it on a layaway, just because he saw I kept staring at it, because I just fell in love with the cover, and it was like the dumbest thing, but I have to have this book, and he had customers coming in to buy other books in that collection that he could have sold it right away. He let me take weeks to pay it off.
Yeah,
that's right.
You don't forget that stuff.
Nope.
No.
Hey, Ozzie, do you have any kind of particular story? Is there one story or something that really stands out? Hasn't he beat up people and thrown them out of the store?
Oh my God!
I wasn't there for that. I was not there for that one. There's so many. It's just the last one of the last big collections we got, he sent me up to Connecticut. He trusted me to go up to Connecticut and take a look at this thing. And when I got there, I started sending him pictures. And these books were incredible. We had hit a mother load. And I told him, we got to get up here as fast as possible. We got to get this collection.
And where was that?
It was in Connecticut.
Okay.
And so the next week we made arrangements to go pick it up. Jimbo was with us. Now, this was an elderly gentleman who had I want to say it was about 8,000 Silver Age to Bronze Age books. He had kept them in a room. The room was the only place in the house that was air conditioned.
Wow.
He had them, all the windows were covered. He had all the books covered. I had dug them all out and brought them down, and I had taken pictures and everything. And we get there. He goes over the books. He's like, we're walking out with this no matter what. Start loading it up. So I drive a 2012 Kia Soul. It is the hamster mobile. He is driving a 2014 or 15 Durango. There's no one sitting in his car besides Jimbo in the front seat. His back part is as big as my entire car. So I start bringing boxes out and loading it into his truck.
Yeah.
Then he has me stop and he has me go work on something. And it took me about an hour to do what I was doing. And as I walk out, Jimbo has taken all the other boxes and completely packed my little Kia Soul. Because Tommy told him to.
He's like, I don't want these in my car. I'm gonna put these in my truck.
Yeah. So I drove back from Connecticut behind him, and he's doing like 90 miles an hour.
Minimum.
And here I am in this little thing, and like he keeps calling me, "Where are you?" Well, I can't go as fast as you. All the weight's in my car.
Yeah.
The Kia Soul only goes 90 anyway.
Yeah. Now
So
we
I
gotta.
did beat him back.
Steve said,
That
"Now
was the funny thing.
Minetto
And
Hill
Jimbo
was
can
on
attest
the
to
island."
that. I beat him back to the store.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Come hell or
I had
high
all the
water,
roads.
you were
I got
beating him
there
back.
about a half hour before he did.
Nice. Now the Minetto Hill is on Long Island, right? So this isn't the same collection.
No,
this
no,
is
no,
a
no.
different
I
one. This is
remember
an
that.
older one.
That was a good one.
That one was like
Yeah,
years
that
ago,
was,
10 years
another
ago.
good one.
That was
Yeah.
around when I first started working, I think.
Yeah, I got a
Yeah.
couple Spideys from that collection.
Oh, you did? Does anyone know how we got those?
That was, believe it or not, I think that was a penny saver ad.
Wow.
That's
Yeah, he was
Hey, Grace.
into, like, we were always pushing him to get on social media and things like that.
Yeah.
But he had his old school ways of doing things. The penny saver. Jeff knows he advertises in Overstreet every year, and that's how
Yep.
the guy in Connecticut got our number. He
Is it
a
really?
2012 guide, and he found us in there.
The amazing thing about the guide, this is going to sound really self-serving, but it's just astonishing to me. Gary Colabona, who used to own Moondogs out in Chicago, was a chain out there. Used to be one of the co-owners of the Chicago Comic Con that became Wizard Chicago. Guy who was in his day pretty relentless in the media about getting out there and promoting comics, and also did some of the really neat work collecting and documenting the DC Ashkins. At any rate, the whole thing. I'm sorry, just going to ramble because it's just it's the emotions hitting me again. But Tommy would see Ozzie. I think he said old school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The old school avenues. And I'd like to say Overstreet's not old school, but we are. We're traditional, let's say. But Gary
Arrowhead.
Gary that I was just talking about before I was getting verklempt. Gary has been out of the business for at least 15 years, if I'm right. But he kept his 800 number. And somebody found a copy of Overstreet 20 in a library. And he scored a major collection that he flipped to one of the really big dealers. Wow. From somebody calling in from an Overstreet ad in a library. So the fact that they find an older Overstreet ad in Connecticut gets Tommy in there, totally buy it.
Yeah. And the penny saver. Like, I can't tell you how many times people call us from the penny saver, and it was just his way. He just knew somebody will call us. Doesn't matter.
Well, he did it his way, that's for sure.
Yeah,
that's why he's lasting so long. He knew what to do.
I can't tell you how many times we're getting close to a con, and I'm the one stressing, like, oh my god, we don't have anything. And he'd always be like, "It'll walk in. And he was, I don't know
every
how
single year there's something.
Every year he would walk into something, and it was just like, how did you do this? How?
And I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, it was, I think, only 8 years at this point, but it might not have been books, but it would have been a statue collect. He always found his way with something to have the big show. And, I think, he planned a lot of his years or around, the big show about New York Comic Con. That was the thing that really made the year, I think, for you guys. And he always made sure that he had his best stuff ready for that.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk around New York Comic Con, at least for the comic side of the floor, you know where Best Comics is. They always stood out.
Not only stood out for good reasons.
Yes.
Not a negative. That booth was always impressive. The people, it's the same thing as the store. And it didn't matter if it was just the guys who, usually just show up for the shows.
Yeah.
or the guys who are regulars in the stores, every one of them greeted you, made eye contact, said hey, and if we're one of the regulars, they recognize us.
Yeah.
They call us by name.
And that's him. You know, he knows presentation was everything, and he knows the right people to do that kind of show too. You know, not everybody who worked in the store would do a con. You know, it's just certain people have that, you know, mentality, that speed to work in that environment. And Tommy knew,
especially in New York, sure.
you know who to pick for stuff like that.
And he hit it out of the park at the last New York Comic Con when he got those displays. I mean, those displays that he got for those.
That was one of the best I've ever seen his booth.
Was so impressive because it was bright. You saw everything, and I didn't see any other booth there with that showed that had a display like that.
Listen, there were guys there with more powerful books. There was guys there with more powerful art. You know that. So what? Best looking display, hands down.
Absolutely, totally agree.
Because he knew how to sell what he had, and, you know, and he would spend the money to make the money too.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, you know, you'd have to spend a little bit more for the displays, like, but you're going to get it back.
Literally, we even had that conversation. He says, I'm rolling the dice on these displays. I think it's going to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it did. You know,
you guys rent those from the convention center? Is that how
he had an outside company that he dealt with to rent those. But Jeff's right. This was a gamble. We didn't know what they looked like. We'd never rented those cabinets. And he asked me what I thought, and I was like, well, we got to do something to stand out. And we went.
What did you think when you saw it set up, Ozzie?
Well, I did all the setup.
When you finished.
I wasn't sure because we couldn't get the electric working when I left that last day, and I was stressed.
Wow.
Because those lights are everything.
Oh yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I didn't see everything, and I was just like, he's gonna kill me because I have no pictures. And he kept calling me and texting me, and I wouldn't answer, and I'm stressed. Oh, he's gonna kill me. So I hung out for like an extra half hour while everybody left, and nobody showed up. So I was like, I gotta go. So I got there early the next day, and someone had beat me to the booth already, and they had turned on the light. John DeCastro had beat me to the booth, and he turned on the lights.
And they just worked.
And I was just like, oh my God, it looks so much better than I thought. Because those lights just made everything just look beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah. And especially when you guys just got those books too, you needed to show them off.
Yeah.
Like the books you had this year, like that was the right setup. And you know, he would change each year too. He knew what he had to highlight. He might not necessarily have done something like that this year. You know, if you guys had the statues, he would have shifted to, you know, making sure he premiered them. He was very good about shifting to what he needed to do.
It was almost like every year the booth had a different theme to it.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
Which
that's what I'm telling you. Like,
as somebody who's gone to the New York Comic Con every year, and you know, usually I'm looking for an excuse not to, but it's New York, I sort of have to. In all seriousness,
I don't have the plug.
Don't you think that made the Best Comics booth something you had to go see, because what's it going to be this year?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's what I mean. It was always. I guess I would stress because I'd be like, we don't have anything. We really don't have anything.
Yeah.
Like we don't have that something that's gonna pop. And he was the luckiest.
Like at the 11th hour, it would always walk in.
He'd just walk right into it, and I'd just be like, how? How did he know?
Billy?
Yeah. Jimbo wants to talk, so I'm going to pop off.
Hang on a second. Hang on. Before you do that,
okay.
Put up this comment from Spat Cave that starts, I remember. Ozzie, does this sound right?
100%.
Oh my God. Yes.
I can hear you, so I'm going to go backstage. I'll bring Jimbo in.
Okay.
So you guys can talk. But Old Bean, tell Jimbo he's on, all right?
All right.
All right, okay. So I'm going to leave, and I'm going to bring him on.
So with that being said, I was saying the other night that we had got.
Welcome back, Jimbo.
I'm back. I never left.
We had gotten a prototype of a Submariner from Sideshow. This thing was beautiful, and it was a prototype. The deal was if Tommy could sell it, great. everything was great. But if he hadn't sold it, we were supposed to take it back to Sideshow. So Spat and I had arranged for it to be on a top shelf where it could be seen from every angle. Next thing I know, he's on a folding chair grabbing the Submariner to move it. It's a folding chair. So just imagine as he's coming off the shelf, the chair closes and down goes Subby with him. And here I am at New York Comic Con with, I don't know what glue. We didn't even have real glue. It was whatever it was. And I'm gluing little pieces back on as people are in the booth. And somehow we sold it. He got it sold.
Because if that thing didn't sell, there would have been an issue.
Yeah. He just got it sold. He sold it to someone, and I couldn't believe it.
I believe it.
You know, Ozzie, when you were telling that story before about us in Connecticut, man, you know, part of the reason why I was loading up your car was because I wanted to sit in the back seat. I didn't want to sit in the front seat with him. You know, I don't really get nervous or scared of things too easily. The way he drove, I was white knuckling, sweating like I ran a 50-yard dash in a 10-yard gym.
I know. I've driven with him a few times. I know that feeling.
I wanted like 3 seatbelts, and like I was like, yo, this guy, he's gonna kill us on the way home.
You know, I always wanted to get him and Nick Katratis in a demolition derby.
Oh God.
because Nick will like have a double page spread out on the dashboard, have the cigar going, and be texting somebody, and meanwhile he's crossing the George Washington Bridge.
Yep.
You know, and yet he's unscathed.
Huh.
You know,
the worst part is he would drive like literally like 85 miles an hour, maybe 2 or 3 feet behind somebody's bumper. And the whole time he's looking at his hair in the rearview mirror. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, put your eyes on the road. Oh man, I got some crazy stories about him. I remember this. You know, I used to train him at the gym for some time, and there's this girl that I'm very close with. She's a female bodybuilder, whatever, very attractive, all tatted up, whatever. And I always had a ritual when I walk into the gym. I always say hello to her, and then we'd all, you know, we both go off into our little mental holes. So I was training him one day, and of course I introduced him to her. And you guys know how he was with females, you know. And
I never noticed.
Yeah, she stops him from talking, and she puts her hand on his shoulder, and she goes, "Oh my God, you have the most beautiful eyelashes I've ever seen in my life." Holy shit. I did not hear the end of that for weeks. He's like, James, who is she? Did you hear what she said about my eyelashes? He would not stop talking about that. I was like, thanks, Rachel. I'm that's it. My head exploded when she said that because I knew in his head, oh, forget it.
James, but you forget, you weren't the only one. Remember, he then proceeded to tell his wife about that, and she didn't hear it for weeks on end how beautiful his eyelashes were.
Too freaking funny, man.
Oh my God.
Too
that
funny.
Sounds about right.
Too funny, man. Yeah, did so many things with this guy over the years, you know, so many things, you know. And, you know, obviously you guys, you know, Long Island Comic Guys, when you guys did his interview, you know, not that long ago when you guys were doing the podcast with him.
Yeah, let's clear the air here.
It's so freaking. I don't even care. It's just funny to me at this point. You know, it's just typical Tommy shit, though. You know, like he's sitting there and you guys are talking about how, you know, that Florida collection was just on another level of crazy.
Oh yeah.
You know, like the whole collection, everything was like signed by Stan Lee and the high 9s all graded. And I'm listening to the interview, and all of a sudden he's like, "Yeah, you know, I drove down to Florida. You do what you got to do." I'm like, "Who drove down to Florida?" I'm like, "You drove down? No, you flew down to Florida. I drove down to Florida." And the best part is, yo, you guys have no idea, man. I pretty much pulled almost 3 days of being awake, but maybe 2 hours of sleep, maybe. I had left my friend's house at like 4 a.m. a Friday morning, and I was staying on the west coast of Florida. I had the Durango with me, and I drove to the east coast of Florida, which was on about a 5.5 hour drive. And we had, I went over there and we met, whatever, and we were going through the collection to make sure everything was in there. And, then we packed up the truck, and, I was like the only person he trusted with this crazy collection, because he knew nothing. How he bought it was how it was going to get back to the store. And I left Florida at 1:30 sharp on the afternoon on a Friday. And as I was leaving, I rolled the window down. I said, Tommy, I said, I will have these books back at your shop tomorrow at this time tomorrow. He's like, impossible. I go, I'm telling you, I'll fucking be there tomorrow at this time with the books. And I remember it sucked so bad because on the way down, you could fold the seats down and I could crawl into the back seat and go to sleep. These books were pressed up against the driver's seat. I could not even recline.
Yeah.
I was stuck in a seated position the entire time. And I remember he called me. I was already on the road for about 10 hours. And he calls me to complain that he was sitting in his mother's neighbor's pool and how hot it was down there. And I'm killing myself to get back to New York. I could not even fall asleep. Am I lying, Ozzie? You remember when I pulled up?
No. The music was blaring. You could hear him from a block away. And he looked like he was ready to fall down. And he opens the car and there's just books from floor to ceiling. There's just boxes of CGC books. We had gotten him pizza because he wanted something to eat, and then once we offloaded everything, I'm like, all right, Jimbo, you're going home to sleep, and he's like, nope, got to go to the fight, and off he went.
Yeah,
I don't know what time he ended up sleeping after that.
Hey, Jimbo, thanks for coming back in, man. We're going to bring Billy back in, but I wanted to say thank you. I'm sure everybody else does too. That was a perfect story to end on.
That was great.
No problem, guys.
All right.
Gracie's right on that one too.
100%. You'd be like, I don't know, I don't like how I look there.
That's what it's tough to do this without being on camera. So thank you, Jimbo. Just because we can only fit 6 people, which is weird, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think 9. I mean, we could always. How do we do the Brady Bunch? Boxes. We can't.
I think those people do that on Zoom.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good point about Tommy and the cosplayer photos. That's great.
Is that so? That's true.
Oh, 100%.
He didn't care how they looked.
Not at all.
He's like, all right, let's take it again. Another one.
Yep.
He's like, we need choices.
Here's another thing. I've never driven with Mike. Have any of you guys?
No, never.
I can only imagine the experience.
I talked to Mike last week on the phone.
That guy has a driver's license?
Yeah. We're going to get him on the show.
Man. That's some comic book history.
Yeah. And I want to thank Snatch Face the Fool. He backed She the Return of the Warrior. Thank you so much.
Nice.
Eric Weathers with Battle Brick Road. He's got his new book. I was one of the top. I was in the top 3 or 4, first 3 or 4 backers for him. He's got a great book on Indiegogo, and it's
let's not go too far down that road. Before we wrap up about Tommy. But I do think everybody should plug out, like any of the end of our shows, we should plug whatever anybody's got coming up.
There you go.
But I want to say thank you to all you guys for coming on and everybody who's been making comments about Tommy. It's nice to know when you're in this horrible situation of losing somebody that you're not in it alone, and that other people feel the way you do. Yeah. And what the stories you guys have all told tonight, we all could have told each other stories pretty much.
Yeah.
We come at them from different perspectives. We've known them different lengths of times, but everybody, we're all speaking the same language, don't you think?
And look at how many people he's really, had an effect on. Like just over the last few days, how many people have we all talked to, that were just as good friends with him?
Yeah. When we were just standing outside that night, and I think I said this to Oz. It's like, it was very reminiscent of that moment in like Batman vs Superman, where, at the end of the movie after Superman dies, it's like, if you seek his monument, look around you, and there's just crowds of people. We had 20 people, crowded into, a large parking structure to kind of just honor a guy, that meant so much to their life. And, it's just it was cool to see, really.
Yeah, TC, I'd really like to congratulate you on really effectively and appropriately quoting a so-so movie in a perfect way.
That is one of my least favorite DC movies.
I mean, it's not a good movie. It's not a good movie, but it's absolutely appropriate.
Only under Suicide Squad is the only thing under that. And you know what? It was only because it was about Superman that I really appreciated it. So that's why it synced up.
Quoting a so-so movie in a perfect way. That's hysterical.
I don't have many skills, but I guess that's one of them.
That's awesome. Because there's lots of so-so movies in life, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Billy, did you have anything you wanted to add about that before we all get to the?
You know, I think you have a lot of regrets in life, and just going back to that time that we were so moved, he gave us the Batman. You know what I mean, for free, the big giant Batman stuffed animal, Oz. You know, I wish I turned around to him because I just thought of it and I said, "You still feel bad about giving me only $1 a book? You cheap ass. Selling 300 comics at $25 each or whatever. It was $20 each or whatever."
That was a made up story. I don't know if that was true.
So no, again, like he was family to us, and I feel the same about all you guys too. Is what's so wonderful about this industry, and we see, you got Lewis here, and you got Grace and Spat, and a lot of our regulars are on, and you just see that. What's so amazing about comic books is that we all come together, even the creators, everyone who works for the people who are editors, the people who are the suits, the people who are the retailers, the creators, we all got into this because we're fans of it. You know what I mean? That's what we all came together over, this love of this amazing medium. And it's a perfect example of and how horrible it was. And everyone had a good cry and the shock of it and the sadness. But this industry makes friends who become family, and that's how I feel. And it was nice when we all went, that we went down there to the shop and there was Jason, and there was Nick, and you were there, Old Bean, and how we all just said, we got to go here. We should all just go. And then you guys came later on after work, and the people were there in the store all day. And it was just, and some of the Tommy's friends I met, that I had never met before. And it just, and then we took our photo, which was cool, but, we all were safe distance apart, 6 inches apart. I don't know if I grabbed that picture and popped it on, but
we were 6 inches apart.
6 inches apart.
I'm sorry, it's not a bathhouse.
I think somebody may be pregnant now, so you guys might want to check yourselves out.
Well, we all stayed 6 feet apart, so that was, but.
Yeah, and we're all going to be telling stories for a while, I think.
And you know what? And you know what?
We're always
more power to that.
Yeah.
Anybody? And you guys have a little parting say? I mean, we've been on for almost an hour and a half.
Yeah. So let's wrap up now. And now I think if you've got it, Billy, if you want to plug any other shows we've got coming up.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I was talking about Eric Weathers has a comic, an Indiegogo that I pledged today. My She is still on, is still live. We're in demand mode.
I believe it's called She Return of the Warrior.
Yes, She Return of the Warrior is in demand mode. I've been talking to printers. Nikki Barucci's actually helping us out because of so many printers are closed down still. It's pushing all the production back from everyone. But I'm taking this time, and Jeff Vaughn, JC, and Steve Peros, my co-writer, and I had a massive meeting last night, and we basically went over all the pages, and we're going to take this time while we're on furlough, I guess, or not furlough, a hiatus of the printers, that we're refinishing pages, refinishing panels. Like, that page could be a little better, right, Jeff? And
we're in the odd position of saying that, we know that most of the people who supported this book are already Billy's fans from She.
Yeah.
But we also know that some of them came because of Zombie Sama and met him that way. Mm. And some of them have seen him on other projects since. And it's been 15 years since there's She. So we've got this bizarre second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah.
And Billy is pretty ruthlessly committed to this book being excellent. And so it's delaying us a bit, but it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the point. I mean, how many times do you get a second chance, for a comeback? So to make a first impression, as Jeff said. So, in a year from now, no one's going to care if it came out in April or May,
but
Or
they're going to
June.
remember if it's freaking great.
Yeah, that's what they're gonna. And again, the whole thing with Tommy, leaving a legacy and all, and that's what I want. I want this book to be great. So we were gonna do 3 more Kickstarters or Indiegogos this year. Probably gonna go Indiegogo, and now we're gonna do 2 more because I'm like, you know what? Let's make these books great. It's a prestige format comic. You know what? We could have put together the book in a month or 2 weeks, really.
And in all seriousness, once you guys see Billy's roughs for this, you're going to say, well, why don't you just send them to an inker? Because they're that good.
Yeah. Well, the inks are like pencils. They're like digitally. It's like it's weird. We're finishing.
Right, we're geting way off topic here.
You're getting way off top. That's enough. But
Billy, would you mind just bringing up that last comment we have there for Lou? He was asking about Zach and the guys.
There you go.
So Oz, you just want to give people, just so you know, Lou, Zach was there as well. He's doing all right. Oz, do you just want to touch upon, what the efforts are for Best Comics right now?
So we're keeping the doors open. We're keeping his legacy going. But with the COVID situation, we are not open to the public. So listen, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, check out our store on eBay, because we're doing a lot of sales via social media, via the internet. We're also doing curbside pickup. You can call up, see what we've got. If we've got it, we'll give you a total, pay for it, we'll bring it out to you, or we'll ship it to you. It's a weird world we live in, and we've got to survive a different way, but we're open, but not to the public. We're just give us a call if you have any questions, or again, please check out all our platforms to see where we're constantly trying to update and put things on. Obviously with what just happened, it took me a while to put something up on Instagram, but we'll be posting more things and just help support us with the stuff that you love. If we don't have it, maybe we can get it for you. Just keep us in mind. Just support your local comic shops. That's it.
Yeah. And
Thanks,
and we have some, stuff, planned that we're working on to help them as well. We got some stuff that's not official yet, but just keep your eyes peeled, follow Best Comics, and we're going to be helping them to update it, and everyone really is. The amount of support. We're not even we don't even work at Best Comics, but people are reaching out to us. And, how can we help? It's like reach out to them, call them, buy what you can.
Yeah, and the comic shops, everybody, it's like drive-through.
Yeah.
Give them a call. I mean, on the way home, Ozzie, the other day when we went home, we went to Panera to get some lunch, and we, it was like drive-through. So you could do the same thing with comics, drive-through comics. Call your local comic shop. You can go to Best Comics right here, and they're also, are you guys Best Comics International, the Best Comics on Twitter, Instagram, all that?
So on Instagram, we're Best Comics New York, and on Facebook, we're just Best Comics.
Awesome. So
I just like to say, since I'm an editor, it's a drive-by, not drive-through, because drive-through is going to do damage.
Drive-by could do damage too. I mean, it is.
Well, if you do it right, it is New York, right?
Long Island.
Yeah. Listen. If you want to drive up to the store, call them. Ozzie did it for me. I bought some books last week, and he brought them right out to my car. So they're making it real easy, real safe. Don't be worried.
Supplies, if you guys need supplies, things like that,
watch them on Facebook, because this isn't going to last. This stuff will have a different stage. There may be restrictions, but it'll open up more than it is. And there's a real industry wide effort coming about our comeback after this.
Yep.
And it's going to be powerful.
Yep. We've got a big show Monday.
Is it Monday or Tuesday?
Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have Josh and Steve Jeppy. So Steve's going to come on, and we're approaching. He's had publishers on. He's done it. He's talked about the publishing angle. He's talked about the retail angle, and now he's going to talk about, of course, those. But also, we're going to add the creative and fan angle to this. What can fans expect from Diamond? What can the creators? What do you think is going to happen? And he's going to give us his plan and what's in the future for Diamond Comics to start, to kickstart this engine again, this wonderful engine of comics, and get it moving.
I have to say I'm for obvious reasons, I hope I'm abstaining from being on that show, but I'll certainly be watching. I can tell you we had a conference call with Steve today, all the leadership of the various companies in Jeppy Family Enterprises, and I've worked for Steve for 25 years, a little bit more, and I have never heard him fired up like he is right now about this industry, its possibilities. And I remember, making sure that he and Tommy got to talk at a New York Comic Con a few years back. And I think there's a good way to tie this all together at the end here is the power of loving this stuff and sharing it with other people. Obviously that's what we're doing right here, right now. And I think Tommy would have liked that.
Absolutely.
He probably would have wished it was about somebody else.
Yeah, of course.
For sure.
now Long Island Comic guys, what do you guys got going on? What you have a show? Tell us what's on the future for you guys, and let's spread the word for you guys.
Well, just first, I do want to let people know. So the name of our podcast is called Don't Feed the Geeks. It's presented by the Long Island Comic guys. But if you guys do search for that and go back to February 16th, episode 34, we actually have our interview with Tommy Maletta. And it was a really fun interview. Anyone who was a fan of his, we really encourage you to go back and listen to it. He was really such a knowledgeable guy. But coming up this Monday, March 11th, we have our interview with huge star writer Jimmy Palmiotti. I think I said it right? Nice. That was right. Just busting JJ's chops. But we had a great conversation with him. I'm not gonna lie, Billy does come up a few times. So, look out for that.
Yeah.
And again, we do have the three of us, me, JJ, and Toy Story, have a little bit of a tribute to Tom again at the beginning of our episode, and then we kind of close it out with some an update on some Instagram conventions that are going on at
Nice.
a friend of ours at Elite Comics 11. So check that out, and we hope that you guys can subscribe to the podcast. Follow at Long Island Comic Guys, at LI Comic Guys, and at Don't Feed the Geeks on Instagram and Facebook. I think we're on Twitter too, right? But nobody checks that, right?
Yeah, nobody checks.
But yeah, anybody who wants to check it out, we sell books occasionally. We can find something. If we can't find it, we're going to send you the best comics. So
Yep.
Roger that.
That's it. What about you guys? You guys got anything?
Well, I'm editing She for Billy. I believe it's called She: Return of the Warrior.
Yes.
I'm working on a screenplay. I've got a pilot in development at Roddenberry Entertainment, and I'm thoroughly occupied with the Overstreet Comic Book Price Guide number 50.
Wow.
50, nice.
50th anniversary, and of course our main cover is Todd McFarlane doing Spidey and Spawn. First time Todd's drawn Spidey professionally in 27 years.
Nice.
Cool. And and if anybody can tell me if I'm wrong about this, I think it's got to be the first crossover Marvel's approved in like 13 years or more. So I'm pretty geeked out about that, especially now that people are talking about, hey, a crossover would really help the industry.
Yeah.
I'm like, remember where you saw it first, folks. Anyhow, guys, if I'm just speaking for myself, I'm just thank you very much for being on with Billy and me.
Thank you.
I'm
glad for hosting this.
I'm really glad we did this.
This is a show. It was kind of therapeutic for me, to be honest with you, to kind of hang with my buddies and talk about our pal. You know what I mean? This man that we all loved, and this isn't a show that we'll look at. Let's get a whole bunch of ratings. It was just kind of for us all to get together and just I just need someone to talk to be honest with you. And
it helps. It really does.
We got Jimbo still in the back, and Jimbo, I love you too, buddy.
And Billy, you're right, man. Because if you look at this, you look at what we did at the store during the day, what you guys did at the store at night. This is the stuff we would do at a wake, and we can't do that right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And God bless technology that we're able to do this way, because it isn't the same as going around and putting your arms around somebody. It isn't, but it's the closest we can approximate that right now. And I feel better for it. I know I got choked up there for a bit and distracted, but I mean, in all sincerity, I really appreciate you guys doing this with us. I don't know how much closure is a real thing, but it helps.
The best we could do is remember him, keep telling the stories, and let his legacy live on.
Yeah,
do what we can to help.
And anyone out there on Long Island, if you guys look, you want to see a beautiful store with a huge inventory of not just comics, but again, statues, toys, premier books, art books, novels. That's the place to go, and even collectibles. And but real quick, Ozzie, so Debbie noticed that you were advertising. You had 2 Super Bowl rings. But they're mislabeled. You have a Giants Super Bowl ring, has the label for the Eagles on it, the little card, the little placard in front of it, and vice versa. What's up with that?
Tom made a sale to a gentleman, and he was supposed to sell. I think it was the Jets ring. Or it's one of the Giants rings, or something happened. Anyway, he grabbed the wrong ring, wrapped it up for the guy, put it in the bag. The guy was, I think, from Texas. When the guy got to Texas, calls us back and tells us, "Hey, you gave me the wrong ring." Oh. I shit you not. I think he convinced the guy that no, that's what he wanted. We never refunded the guy. I never heard from the guy again. He was like, and Tommy never argued with him or anything.
That's hysterical.
That was that.
He was so good at stuff like that. I gotta tell you,
that's sort of perfect. Hey, just a quick shout out to Lou T Art. I'll address that on another show, but the family stuff derailed the quick plans for more Vampire PA, but we'll get to it.
Awesome. And then I have one more thing. At the end of this month, it looks like the 27th, we're shooting for that. If not, it'll be the following Wednesday. But Dynamite is bringing Miss Fury, the Joy Division, back. If you guys remember, it had been solicited a few years ago, 2 years ago.
957 years ago.
Yeah, it just wasn't right. But now we have a whole new team. The book looks amazing. Maria Laura Sanapo is doing the art. It's incredible. We've got the blessing of June Tarp Mills is the Miss Fury's creators family. We got the support of Trina Robbins, who is the foremost historian on June Tarp Mills, and this is going to be a real love letter to Miss Fury, the original Catwoman, the first comic ever produced. That was created by a woman. It was written and illustrated by June Tarp Mills, and it preceded Wonder Woman by 6 months. So it's going to blow you away, and I'm so excited for that with Dynamite.
And even though I'm not officially editing this book, I did get a look at the script for number 1, and it is badass.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
We're excited for that. We've been hearing about that for so long.
I know. Well, it's not me. It's Dynamite. It's it's not me.
Oh, just stop. It's going to be great. It was worth the wait. Just say that.
It's going to be great. It's worth the wait. So, all right, JJ, anything you want to end with, buddy?
No, we're good. Follow up on TC stuff. Check out our podcast, especially with Tommy. It's memorable.
I'm glad we got to do that. I really am.
Me too.
Because that was on our docket for a while.
Guys, can you send Billy the link to that he could put that in the comments for the YouTube?
Hold on.
Well, I have to go through the podcast here. Is that good or no? If you send me the link, or if you post the link, I'll just pop it up. Pop it up. Get it.
Pop it up.
What do you guys think of this new Pop XP? Huh? The pop culture experience.
Like pop-up video, only different.
I like it. Nice direction.
Thank you. We've got a big week next week. We've got a big week. Like I said, we've got Josh and Steve Jeppy.
Jim, can you send him? I don't have his number.
Oh, you don't?
I don't know if Jim. Do you know how to do it?
Yeah.
You put it
you put it in there. Oh, okay, great.
I can just do it.
There you go.
And then we have Ben Garant and Thomas Lennon from Reno 911. They're coming on Thursday.
That's
so
cool.
We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Did you post? Hang on, let them post the Don't Feed the Geeks. And I just want to thank you, Jimbo Slice, for coming on too. We've got to compare some Suffolk County and Nassau County pizza. Your buddy Niall Scholar that says Connecticut is the pizza capital of the world.
Yeah.
Here's
That's only
the
according to,
thing about that. It feels really bad to pick on Niall because he's not here.
Oh,
But that's insane.
That is insane. But
that's because some guy from Massachusetts who knows nothing about pizza has been ranking pizzas and has become world famous, and he said Connecticut has the best. It's like, listen, let people who know about pizza judge pizza.
Yeah. Exactly. My God, please. Did you text me, Jim, or did you post in the comment section?
I put it in the private comments.
Oh, ooh.
Look at that.
That was the only thing I saw that I could type into. So.
Let's go to the private chat.
Well, now.
Oh, look at that. Jimbo Slice is there too. And all right, let me copy that.
Okay.
Copy. All right. Let me hit go back to comments. I'm going to post it.
Nice.
My first time ever.
I also will say one of the things, if you look in recent episodes of Pop XP, we did our first Pop XP panel, and it was a 2-hour affair about the Malibu Ultraverse with the founders, Chris Alm, who was the editor in chief, Tom Mason, who was the creative director, and Dave Olbrich, who was the publisher. And we had a blast, and there's more to come.
Nice.
Awesome.
Excellent. Well, all right, guys. Thank you all.
Thank you for having me.
You guys are great for and I just want to let me go out with I just want to what can we say? This great guy, really great guy, and
we are blessed for having known him.
Yep.
And we should and it may sound trite, but we should concentrate on not on what we've lost, but what we had.
Absolutely. So thank you guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
You guys, thank you all. Remember our friend Tommy. It's at Best Comics International. Ozzie, Matt, TC, JJ, Old Bean, Jimbo Slice, and everyone out there who knew Tommy. I'm just so sorry. What a great loss for not only the industry, but for all of us. And he was one of a kind, and he will be missed.
He will.
Not fair.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you all for joining us. And I'll take this off and then we'll end with Tommy. So let's do that. So let me go and so we can all bid our farewells. And so anyway, so I want to thank each and okay. Who's off? Oh, Jim?
JJ had to run. I think he had to use the facilities.
Okay. JJ, are you off?
Yeah.
He's back. So, all right, guys. So thank you all. Thank you for putting up with me with my very first me doing this with this whole multiple streaming thing and all. And
you did a good job.
You did a great job.
It came out pretty good. So thank you guys again. Once again, everyone out there, please. Peace, love, comics. Stay safe. We'll see you all soon. We'll all be back. We've got a great friends over at Best Comics International in New Hyde Park, New York. Check them out on Twitter. Check out the Long Island Comic Guys podcast. Old Bean, good to see you as usual, as always. And I'll see you. We'll talk Monday, and then we'll definitely Tuesday. We'll be back with Steve Jeppe and Josh Jeppe. So I want to thank you guys and tally ho. Thanks a million.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night, everybody. So let's find a good picture of Tommy and run it like that. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.